Hello and welcome to my 3,000 subscriber special where I asked you guys on what your least favorite enemy in the Battle Cats was. Over the course between July 2nd and July the 13th, over a series of polls using Google Forms, enemies were eliminated one by one until we had our final 13 enemies. The way I had set up the tournament was by going through it with enemy release order as to give players at different points of the game their own input. For the first round, there were 10 enemies and 5 would move on to the next round. Then in the next round, 2 got to move on to the next round after that. In this round, there were 2 enemies and only 1 got to move to the final round. In the final round, depending on how many votes the enemy got in the poll is where they would end up on the list. The final number of votes in the main poll was 145 votes. I did a few tiebreaker polls due to the fact that some of them ended up in the same amount of results. After fierce competition in the polls, these were the worst enemies in the Battle Cats, voted by you folks. Most of the points made in this video were points provided by the wonderful folks that have participated in this survey. If you like this video, make sure to always give it a like and comment down on what your least favorite enemy in the Battle Cats is. And if this is your first time to the channel, why not hit that subscribe button because it really helps out, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss an upload. Anyways, to the countdown we go. Number 13 with 3 votes is Death Corey. Death Corey is an Aku enemy who has only appeared in the Uncanny Legend stage Burning Crimson and Aku Studies 501 Inquiry. Despite appearing in only 2 stages, many people did not like fighting enough to shoot him all the way up to this point of the list. The main stat that stands out is his 600,000 shield health that regenerates at 100% when restored for a total of 2.4 million shield health if not broken with the shield breaker. What makes him very difficult to take down is his high wave damage, meaning a wave blocker is essentially required to take him down. His wave damage is 23,500 and it's a level 6 wave, which is half of Berserk Corey's. If you don't bring a wave blocker, then you're essentially fighting an enemy with 3.67 million health, making him one of the highest effective health enemies. Number 12 is Cadaver Bear, with 3 votes who won the first tiebreaker poll. Cadaver Bear is a zombie enemy first introduced into the Future zombie outbreaks and Uncanny Legend stages. The main problem most people have with this enemy is the fact that his high range plus his high DPS means that most anti-zombie units that aren't uber rares are easily killed by him. Another issue most people have with him is his immense burrowing range, being able to burrow 1,125 range into your defenses, easily being able to cut them in half. Now if you're like me and first fought him in the Uncanny Legends, you will know that he appears at 300% strength. This gives him 360,000 health and 15,000 damage, effectively 23,682 DPS, and absolutely shreds anything that comes close to it. Most people find that the bear is nearly unstoppable unless you bring the Holy Blast Cannon due to how effective it can kill zombies. One of the only non-uber rare anti-zombie units that can fare decently well against him is Shigon Cat due to his resistance against zombie enemies, although even with high magnifications he can still struggle against them. Although talented Corrupted Psycho Cat and Housewife, if she can use a peon as a stepping stone, can still be useful due to outranging if you're able to prevent him from advancing at all, and decent damage respectively. Number 11, Cretaceous Scissorrex with 4 votes. Cretaceous Scissorrex is an alien behemoth enemy that is featured in the Behemoth Stone stages. The main reason people don't like this enemy is because of his humongous range. His attacking range is 400 for his first attack and 600 for his second attack. For units that have less than 400 range, they have to eat a massive 37,000 damage, and units that have a range between 401 and 600 are still having to eat 21,000 damage, making what would be counters like Aphrodite and Bahamut unable to deal with it. Scissorrex is also pretty tanky, having 1.4 million health. Combine these 3 stats and you get an enemy that could take a very long time to take down. At our number 10 spot, we have Assassin Bear with 5 votes. Assassin Bear is an interesting case of an enemy since he's mainly used as a makeshift time limit and as a part of a gimmick level. For example, in Chubby Be Good, he spawns in 15 minutes after starting the stage. In another stage, Littering Coast, a stage with an extremely buffed wall doge and a ton of assassin bears that need to be taken out by the cat cannon every so often. The main reason people don't like him is simply because of his raw power, having 3,000 damage per hit and 11,250 DPS. While I personally don't mind him, I get that it can be super frustrating to lose to this enemy because you didn't have your cat cannon ready. Assassin Bear is effectively a you lose enemy if you aren't ready to face him. At number 9 is Fallen Bear with, funny enough, 9 votes. Fallen Bear is an Aku enemy and is considered one of the most difficult Aku enemies in the game to defeat. While his health is only 75,000, his shield health is 250,000, giving him an effective 825,000 health if you don't have a shield breaker. While this might not sound too bad, his range of 345 means that there's only one non-Uber shield breaker who can outrange him, that being Aku Researcher, who only has a 15% chance to break his shield. Some of the gripes that people have with him is because of his powerful death surge and the struggle that is Aku Realms Mexico, which is considered one of the hardest Aku Realm stages and perhaps one of the hardest stages in the game because there's 5 Fallen Bears who take forever to kill, and their high damage value means that the units that can't outrange them will get killed almost instantly due to their sheer numbers, as well as the Sunfish Jones that serves as the backliner enemy of the stage. Number 8 is Zolo with 10 votes. Zolo is a zombie floating enemy that is present in the Uncanny Legends with a few exceptions. Zolo is an enemy with low health but deals deadly toxic damage. Zolo's toxic damage removes 80% of your unit's maximum health. They are usually spammed in levels like their counterpart Brawlo, meaning they can easily tear a massive hole in your defense. While it only attacks at 100 range, its Omni Strike range is between -200 and 222. This is why Zolo can easily rip through your defense. The only meat shield that can protect your front line against Zolo is King Nekokamen, who is the true form of Gold Brick Cat, who is only available during the anniversary event since he's immune to toxic and resists floating. Talented Rice Ball is your next option to stall him out, so to simply put, the rapid spam of them whenever they're present in the stage and them just nuking every one of your units has had enough votes to put this enemy at the number 8 slot. At our number 7 slot is Rain D with 11 votes. Rain D is a traitless enemy that is fought relatively early in the game. The first encounter with them is in the 8th subchapter of Stories of Legend. In this stage, Frontier Spirit, there are 5 Rain D that must be fought. His 100% stats means that he's knocked back for every 4,500 bits of damage dealt against him. This can be extremely frustrating because it makes it so it's impossible to actually keep track of how many knockbacks remain on this reindeer. One more point on his knockback is that due to his high knockback count, it can feel like it takes forever to kill him. Another issue a lot of people have with him is his high attack rate. He attacks every 1.37 seconds, and with an attack power of 4,547, specific I know, means that for early game players, especially combined with the fact of his high range and that you'll be fighting 5 of them, who will probably all be out of sync, means that they could be very troublesome to deal with. Keep in mind that I've been talking about his first encounter only. He gets even more troublesome to deal with when his strength magnification is increased. The highest magnification you will run into is in the Uncanny Legends, where you will be fighting him at 600% in his first 2 encounters in the Uncanny Legends. For every other time you fight him in the Uncanny Legends, it's only 500% magnification, not including the extra crown difficulties. But to keep this short, his decently long range, high attack rate, and ridiculously high knockback count serves to be a force to be reckoned with. At the number 6 spot, we have Sir Metal Seal with 11 votes, who won the second tiebreaker poll. He won the tiebreaker poll against Rain D, and it's very understandable why. Because of the unique property of metal enemies that can only be damaged with critical hits, and the thing about Sir Metal Seal is that it's the highest health out of any regular metal enemy with 22,000 health. Metal enemies are already disliked because of their inherent nature of being an RNG fiasco if you don't have a 100% critical chance unit on your loadout. Even if you bring a loadout of several critical attackers, it can take forever to grind down its metallic exterior. This enemy is the worst when it's in mixed stages. Probably the worst example is Utopia is Over There, where there are 4 different hippo variants: regular, angel, and the 2 metal hippos along with the Sir Metal Seal. While there's only 1 seal in this level, for this point of the game, you probably won't have enough critical hit units to easily take it on. It also doesn't help that there's a bunch of hippos in the way in the first place. Sir Metal Seal is even more difficult to fight in the Uncanny Legends, where it's always fought at 300% magnification, with 66,000 health. I haven't even mentioned the fact that it deals 6,699 damage with nearly 12,000 DPS. From this enemy's sheer tankiness, only outmatched by the Metal Cyclone, which is meant to be a boss only fought a few times over the course of the game. This is just a regular enemy that is just frustrating to fight, and if you get to bring a critical hit unit and this guy shows up, it's an automatic loss. Number 5 is Henry with 13 votes. Henry is a traitless enemy that is first found in the stage Conservation Society in the 31st subchapter of Stories of Legend. Henry isn't the deadliest enemy in the world, only dealing 2,500 damage with 375 DPS. No, it isn't his damage that makes him so disliked, but it's his ungodly long freeze time. His freeze is long enough to perma-freeze your units. If your units are caught within a spotlight, they will just sit there, frozen in time until he or the enemies advance into your defenses. However, due to Henry's slow speed, he will probably just attack the same units that he was attacking before. A side effect of his permafreeze is that he can easily clog your cat limit due to him not being strong enough to kill most of your units. It also has the perfect time with this force swing to refreeze Awakened Bahamut after getting outside the spotlight, causing him to just stand there menacingly. Henry also has a huge health pool of 1 million health with 4 knockbacks, meaning that it can take forever to kill. Henry is big, slow, and keeps your units stuck in a state of purgatory, also Calbane's Keeper. Do you even lift, bro? With number 4, Brawlo, with 13 votes, winner of the final tiebreaker poll? Brawlo was a floating enemy, and we have already seen a zombie counterpart earlier in this list. Brawlo was a small enemy who individually is not difficult at all, with only 15,000 damage and 19,000 health, with 150 range. However, Brawlo is never alone, with one exception. You can easily see 3 to 4 Brawlos spawning in a second and can easily penetrate through your defenses. Fun fact, because Brawlo is so fast, if they spawn when a bosses spawn, they can clip through some of your units. While Cameraman and Fishman can be great counters, the sheer spammability of this enemy means that I can just chew through them. Another thing with Brawlo is that when Brawlo is knocked back, his attack resets. If you were to use the cat cannon against them, all of them will just rip through your units. If you're used to using the cat cannon to damage enemies, you might do it instinctively and accidentally unleash the horde. While there isn't much to talk about with this enemy, since everyone has always made the same points, this enemy has had this much of a reputation to be voted number 4 on this list. And the winner of the bronze medal is Winged Piggy with 14 votes. Winged Piggy is an angel variant of Piggy who was introduced late into Stories of Legends. Winged Piggy is despised for her combination of long Omnistrike range of negative 340 to 340 and attacks from a range of 170. Her DPS is also pretty high, with a DPS of 8,128 with the raw 6,000 damage. Her weaken reduces your unit's attack power by 90%, causing most units to be effectively useless when attacking. The only non-Uber units that could be good against it are Zamboni due to his tankiness and Cyborg for outranging and being immune to weaken. The weaken effect lasts for 5 seconds and attacks every 0.73 seconds. Whenever she is present in the level, the loadout of your units becomes heavily weighted towards defeating this specific enemy. Heaven's Oasis is a nightmare of a stage, and the first encounter of this swine with several high DPS enemies such as the Black and Angelic Gories and r.ost means that there's a huge slog to chug through. This is even more of a struggle since your only effective specialized meat shield is Ramen and makes Heaven's Oasis 4-star crowns one of the hardest 4 crown stages in the game from the point when you take it on. In short, high DPS, extremely powerful weaken ability, and long range makes this Winged Piggy enter the 3rd spot on the list. The runner-up and the winner of the silver medal on this list is Professor A with 15 votes. Professor A is a red enemy found in the middle of Stories of Legend. Professor A has a high 501 range, meaning that the only units that aren't Ubers who are capable of outranging him include LD units and Lil Neandem. This high range is paired with the 20% chance to slow your units, which might not sound too bad at first, but keep this in mind. He attacks every 0.8 seconds and his slow lasts for 2 whole seconds, meaning the slow can easily last a lot longer. Professor A is also usually guarded by several strong enemies, preventing you from getting direct strikes against him. However, the good thing about this is that you can use your LD units as stepping stones to take on Professor A. However, they become very ineffective once he's all alone. The only units that can effectively take him on that aren't uber rares at the point of the game where you start fighting him is Lil Neandem and Rocat. His decent 6,800 damage and 8,500 DPS means that when supported, he can easily shred your front line while standing at a safe distance. Professor A can demand a few slots in your loadout because of all of these stats, as mentioned when discussing the need for LD units, Ro, and Neandem. The fortunate thing is that he doesn't have that high of a health pool. However, from the constant slowing to the shredding of your frontline to demanding a lot when making your loadout for a stage, with him present as it made enough people to vote him to 2nd place. Now before we get to number 1, I just want to say that if you're enjoying this video to give it a like as it helps out a lot, and if you're interested in Pokemon content at all, to check out my hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Black 2 with Sinnoh Pokemon only if you haven't seen it. Thanks. Now back to your regular scheduled programming. Okay, I want you to guess what number 1 is in the comment section, or if you're watching this from the premiere, to guess in the premiere chat now. I will give you 5 seconds. Guess? Well, here is number 1. And the winner, with the gold medal around their beautiful long neck, is r.ost with 34 votes. r.ost is our number 1 slot with a massive 34 votes, a gigantic jump from the previous 15 votes of our last enemy. r.ost took up 23.5% of the total votes, and I can definitely see why. If you were paying attention to the video, I mentioned 2 stages earlier in the video, Calbane's Keeper and Heaven's Oasis, and you wanna know what both of these stages have in common? They both feature r.ost. The first encounter with this ostrich is pretty early in Stories of Legend, before you even fight Wolf, and while the debut stage isn't too bad since there's only one ostrich, the next stage, Sin and Punishment, is pure hell for the point where you are in the game. 3 r.osts at this point in the game can be pretty overwhelming for the player. Taking a look at r.ost stats, he has 340,000 health, 7,200 damage with an effective 12,705.47 DPS, 260 range, 5 knockbacks, 16 movement speed, and has a 10% chance to critical hit your units, doubling his damage. Because this enemy is usually spawned in groups, especially in the later half of the game, they can easily overwhelm the player to the point of complete frustration. While normally there would be some answers to counter this enemy, this isn't the case, at least for the early game, since he is a traitless enemy. Even then, most of the non-uber rare anti-traitless units are clobbered by this oversized turkey, and the only one that could do anything against it is Glass Cat. Unless you're unlucky and it gets a crit before it can attack. I can say from personal experience this has happened to me more than once and it can be super frustrating. This enemy can even stop Awakened Bahamut if you don't send him out at the right time, which can be very hard to time if he isn't close to the base, which will be the case most of the time, excluding say Realm of Carnage. Probably the worst stage with this enemy is Procrastinator Parade. The stage features an infinite amount of r.osts. 3 spawn at the start of the level, and when the base is hit, 4 spawn from the base and they continue to show up, but eventually they only start spawning every 50 seconds. There is also a Camel in the back, which makes it a tad bit more annoying. To simply put this short, this enemy has high DPS, especially for an early game enemy, is pretty beefy, and spawns in groups most of the time that just completely shred through your units because of their constant attack rate. I personally would say that r.ost is even worse to deal with than his relic counterpart, m.ost, who despite being beefier, having higher range and can slow and weaken your units, isn't spawned in groups and actually has a good few units to keep it in check, unlike r.osts. I want to say thank you all for getting me to 3,000 subscribers and all of your input into this survey to build this community-backed tier list. I want to ask those watching this video, what is your least favorite enemy in the Battle Cats? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, wanna give it a like, and if you want to join this wonderful community, wanna hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss an upload. With all that said, thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.